and also Pak Robert Pope. You are not strange to us because we have met before. I think.
Thanks to Professor Abdul Qadir Riyadi, PhD, for his speech. Now, let us continue to the opening speech from Ferry Mamahid, PhD, the Executive Director of CISRC. Please welcome Bapak Ferry Mamahid. Time is yours.
To our Dean, Prof. Riyadi, and also distinguished speakers or guests across the globe, and all the participants, on behalf of the committee, we welcome you. A warm welcome to you all. I'm speaking here with the two hats. First is a co-chair of the committee, and also the other one would be the speaker also at this conference. So our theme for this 2 days, Religion, War, and Peace, we have to think through this theme for 2 days, and I believe that this is not an abstract idea. It is pressing daily reality. We see it in the hate speech and peace advocacy on the social media. We see it in the vital and yet overlooked work of women and youth in building peace. So this conference is also designed to tackle these issues head on. Our program is rich and diverse, featuring everything from interfaith dialogue to community activism. So my challenge to you all is this: let's not just talk about these issues. Let's talk through them. Let the conversation that start here in this room, in the hall, continue over coffee and meals. Let's build network that lasts. Our partners at Faculty of Philosophy and USHULUDDIN at UINSA our speakers, and to every one of you who has chosen to invest your time here, once again, we want to say thank you to you all. You are the ones who will make this conference a genuine step forward in our shared mission to nurture peace. It is now my great pleasure to officially welcome you to the International Conference UNSA CISRC 2025. So the conversations starts now. Thank you.
Thank you, Bapak Ferry Mamahit, PhD, for his speech. Next, we will have the welcoming speech from the keynote speaker, Professor Ahmad Muzaki, MAG, Creative C, MPhil, PhD. Please welcome.
Okay, good afternoon ya, masih ya. Good afternoon everybody. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to State Islamic University. Probably you've been aware enough of the name Sunan Ampel. Sunan Ampel is one of the 9 revered Muslim saints who brought Islam to Java, and he has Chinese name. Anybody knows the Chinese name of Sunan Ampel? Bong Shiho. Bong Shiho. It was revered within Muslim here in Indonesia that Sunan Ampel is Indonesian of Chinese descent, bringing Islam into Java, into Indonesia, especially within Java. And all Muslims across Indonesia acknowledge him as one of the most revered Muslim saints in Indonesia. And you probably knowledgeable enough that Indonesia is the stronghold of Muslim populations in the world. If you put Muslims across 15 Arab countries into one together and to top up all together, the numbers of Muslims in Indonesia is still the highest number. Is that right, Prof. Kadir, yeah? Prof. Kadir graduated from Al-Azhar University in Cairo, and then Masters and PhD from Cape Town University in South Africa. Our theme for the International Conference on Religion, War or Peace, and then my colleagues talk about how we nurture peace and tolerance within public life. The issue is that whether religions is contributing factor for the peace or for conflict. Probably people of our age, we have different views of Islam, different views of the world when we live in different situations of social life. My colleague here and me and Prof. Kadir, for example, would see, oh, okay, religion is a solution for our life. But if you talk about people of young generation, probably they would say, oh no, religion is the source of conflict. Because the issue is that the conflict within the society comes out of religious spirit or comes out of more material cause of effect. So that is why the issue of whether the religion is the source of conflict or the source of peace now becomes an issue. And the Minister of Religious Affairs, Nazarun Umar, proposes the idea of love, the spirit of love. In the West, for example, in the States of America, you probably understand the spirit of love. Love your neighbors. Love, we can translate the concept of love into two notions: deep respect and then deep affection. If you don't have this deep respect, that means you cannot love your neighbors. If you do not have deep affection, so you don't have any love to people of different cultural background. So the minister proposes the concept or the notion of love for social life. So starting from love, then we can develop the issue or the spirit of tolerance. So that is why the international conference organized by the Faculty of Theology and Philosophy, USHULUDDIN Islamic Theology and Philosophy, now become a central issue within not only Indonesia but also across the world. So me, as the head of the State Islamic University, will perceive this conference very strategic. In a way, we develop a new spirit of a public life by bringing up the issue of religion into the center of public life across plural societies in the world. Welcome to the State Islamic Universities, and I'm very happy to be here, even though I'm coming late. Sorry for that, because I've just finished lunch with the Consul General of Australia. He invited me to come to have lunch, and then having chats on and on from here to there, and then we, oh okay, 2:50, I've got to finish the lunch and then coming to this place. Welcome to State Islamic Universities. I would see the result of the conference, and then I would talk to Pak Menteri Agama that we here in Surabaya coming together from different places, and we proposing something to do with love, tolerance instead of conflict and hate to people with different cultural background. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Professor Ahmad Muzaki, for his speech. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the conclusion of today's ceremony. I would like to extend our sincere gratitude for your presence and participation. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The next event is the plenary session, which we will hand over to the moderator, Muhammad Abdillah, PhD. Time is yours.
Tes. Oke, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for participating this event. So now, please allow me to lead the first plenary sessions today. Okay, today we will have 4 speakers. 3 will be here and 1 speaker will be on screen. So yeah, the first session will be more about the foundations and then fact of the interreligious relations, peaceful relations among religions, both based on the Holy Scripts and the society. So we have 4 speakers here. Our first speaker, let me introduce the speakers today. Christopher Joel, PhD, Dr. Christopher Joel. Dr. Joel is researcher at the Victoria University of Wellington, New Zealand, and he has spent more than 2 decades in Thailand, and yeah, so he will be speaking about the role of religion in Thailand's certain conflicts since 2004. Yeah, that's one of the what is called the topic that always emerging in if we talk about the interreligious cooperation, interreligious conflict in Southeast Asian regions. One of the hot issues in certain part of Thailand. And the second we have Dr. Iyad Abu Rabi. He is teaching at the University of Jordan. He is the Palestinian Jordanian, and he will be talking about the Maqasid approach as method for understanding the Holy Scriptures. And the third we have Dr. Atifa. She is a senior lecturer at the University Malaya in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. She will be talking about the peaceful coexistence in multi-religious Malaysia, interreligious issues and socio-religious harmony framework. And the last on the screen, Pak Asif, Pak Richard, udah siap? Okay, okay. We are still connecting with the 4th speaker. So we'll connect later if the connection is started. So we have about 2 hours here. So let's say the speakers will start speaking from 15 to 20 minutes, and then we continue from Pak Chris, and then Dr. Iyad and Dr. Atifa, and while waiting for Dr. Richard for the connections. Okay, please. Yes.
A very warm welcome to you all. My name is Chris from New Zealand, and it is a pleasure to be here. I want to take the time to thank again all of the organisers of the conference. Those of us who have organised conferences, we realise how much work goes into organising these conferences. And I want to again extend my sincere thanks to everyone in the local UN campus, as well as Dr. Ferry, for all the work they have done behind the scenes. And I am sure that I'm not the only person looking forward to hearing people's presentations, but arguably more importantly, to be engaging with them one-to-one after the sessions. I appreciated the comments made in the introduction about there needing to be A1 scholars, not AI scholars. This is far more important. We can have credible hope in the ability of ordinary humans endowed by their Creator with sense, common sense, and the willingness to respond to revelation if we are talking face to face, one to one, not just engaging with ideas through scholarship by algorithm. Algorithms are not our friend. They are the friend of some very, very powerful principalities and powers. They are their friends. The algorithm is their friend. They are not our friend. I will develop that, inshallah, a bit later on. I'm wanting to just jump to the third slide. Slide number 3. Next, please. Thank you very much. Okay, so those of you who live in Southeast Asia, I assume are aware of a long-standing, over 20 years now, very, very complicated conflict between the Thai state, and particularly its bureaucratic elite and its military elite, with elements amongst the Malay Muslim community in the south. There are many things that Thailand and Indonesia have in common. One of the many things that Indonesia and Thailand have in common is decades in which the government is dominated by the military, and of a series of military governments, decades in which people behaved badly. I'm thinking about the communist crackdown in the 1960s. So Thailand and Indonesia both have a number of things in common. One is a Buddhist majority country, one is an overwhelmingly Muslim majority country. Both struggling with decades of imperfect democracy and decades where there is the absence of democracy. The title of my paper is about, my analysis is of the changing assessments of this thing we call religion. And anyone in a religious studies program is aware of the debates and the problems of how exactly we define religion, the problems of talking about religion in a largely post-religious and secular West, and of talking about these things in places where religion continues to be an important part of ordinary life. This is a summary, one of the many summaries of the conflict in South Thailand, and for the purposes of my talk, I want us to just have a look at the we've got a map of the different districts in the south, which are Malay majority, and you will see some which are coded with a deeper colour. This indicates geographically where we have most frequently incidences of violence, shootings, bombings that result in death and injury, impacting Buddhists and Muslims alike. The chart is a chart showing the rise and gradual fall of the conflict from 2004. I want to add that my presentation today is not of an objective scholar who hasn't spent a lot of time in the South. I lived in Batani for 10 years, from 2000. I was living there when the conflict began. Lived in a community where my favorite noodle shop, where I used to go after working in the evening. One night, a guy was sitting having a bowl of noodles. Someone came up behind him, blew his brains out. My motorbike was stolen. My motorbike was stolen one day, and as soon as I realized it was stolen, I didn't run, but I rushed to the police station. And what did I do at the police station? I reported it stolen because I was worried the bike would be used to make a bomb. 3 years later, because you see, I can't go through an Australian airport with my big beard without being thought of as some kind of Al-Qaeda deep cover. The Australians don't like me. I like Australians, they don't like me. I don't know why. Indonesians and New Zealanders, we need to get together and have solidarity against the Australians who don't like us. And 2 years later, 3 years later, I got a call from my landlord saying, police have turned up at my house saying that there was a motorbike registered to the house you rented off me, and it's been blown up, and a young 8-year-old has died and 3 people have been injured. So I'm not talking about this because I'm some kind of bored academic who's got a morbid curiosity with violence. Those of you who still remember the bad behaviour amongst many, many people in the late 1990s will still remember about what it was like, or they've been told by their parents. We should not glorify violence. We've been immunised about violence. We play computer games where we shoot people. Astaghfirullah. We watch movies where we are fascinated by plots where people are planning violence against their fellow humans. And we call this entertainment. The next slide. So the violence in South Thailand has subsided. There have been significant spikes in 2007, and this was when we were beginning to see the start of rogue elements of the police shooting rocket-propelled grenades into mosques, and mosques beginning to more frequently make attacks on temples and killing monks and novices, innocents. In ways that contravene any kind of juristic just war perceptions amongst all of the mazhabs. So we are seeing the violence go up and down, but gradually down. We've got a period of escalation, of fluctuation, of systematic downward, and in a now unpredictable pattern. Next slide, please. So I am presenting today, in the time that remains, a very short summary of how our analysis of the scholarship from South Thailand reveals certain themes that will be of interest to all of you, sharing an interest in how people from different religious traditions get on, but doing so in the context of a nation state. So this is not just about communal problems. This is a conflict that involves nation states, institutions, bureaucracies that perpetuate discrimination and a lack of privilege. I would like to do a short advert. So the analysis that I've done is available on a project that we completed with some of our Indonesian partners. And it is the Muslims in Thailand Bibliography and Biography Project. And so if you want to have a look at it, it's mitbb.org. And that provides you all of the information that we have. Next slide, please. And there are over, next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So we have included over 1,800 references to Muslims in Thailand in English, mainly amongst peer-reviewed a range of books, a range of articles, thesis, book chapters, edited volumes, and a few other categories. Next slide, please. And so this includes an analysis of the authors that have contributed to this body of literature. Next slide, please. As well as the oldest to the newest. And I want to just pause and just point this out. I have not all of the items, there are other items before 1950s, but I took the 1950s as the starting point. And I've got in the graphs here, 2 levels of analysis, one of which is the number of publications per year, and the other is a number of publications per decade, and you will see the correspondence between these big spikes with the violence. So the violence started in 2004, and we see on this chart here, we see a spike in scholarly interests in studying Muslim minorities in Thailand around 2004. Next slide, please. In addition to the bibliographies of A to Z and newest to oldest to newest, sorry, I've done a topical bibliography. Next slide, please. In this topical bibliography, I have dealt with a number of categories, and I've ascribed a number of codes or tags to the individual publications, most of whom have got more than one tag. So if I was taking photos and I tagged things, I might have a tag of people with long hair and Palestinians with long hair, you see, more than one category. These include, next slide please, these include specific interests in conflict studies in South Thailand, pre-2004, post-2004, and conflict studies that take a comparative historical analysis, comparing the conflict in South Thailand with other contexts. Next slide, please. And what these reveal is, again, a very, very close correlation between the number of studies with the rise in violence. Next slide, please. This is a correlation. You see there's a bit of a lag. We have the most important spike was in 2007. This was when things were looking very, very, very dire. We see the number of publications tagged as security and conflict studies. In 2009, there were 110 publications specifically dealing with the violence. Next, please. This trend of an interest in conflict. So the area of Muslim studies, and as an anthropologist, I refer to being involved in Muslim studies, not Islamic studies, because I'm interested in what ordinary Muslims say and do, watching what ordinary Muslims say and do, for the very important reason that most people don't say what they do and they don't do what they say. This is why we need more anthropologists involved. So the trend of Muslim studies being dominated by conflict precedes 2004. There was a conflict that preceded 2004. A lower level, more conventional, guerrilla, jungle-based warfare that resembled Aceh, Gaman Aceh, and what was going on with the MILF in the Philippines. This has changed significantly post-2004. Next slide, please. I want to just conclude by making a few comments. There is a very famous quote by a guy called Maslow, and he says, if the only tool you have is a hammer, it is tempting to treat everything as if it is a nail. Now, what is the relevance of this quote to the study of the conflict in South Thailand? Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, so there are a number of themes that have been done, and they've been done again, and they've been done again and again and again. And one of the observations we had as we were analysing the bibliography, studies in English, specifically analysing Muslim minorities in Thailand, is that post-2004, close as it was to the events of September 11 and all of those disastrous interventions that most sane-minded Westerners at the time and now feel were tragically misguided. We see an obsession, and I remember I was living in this community, and after the violence took off in 2004, all of a sudden there were these PhD students and these people from think tanks, and they were turning up with their fixers, with their translators in their cars, and they were trying to snoop around and find, is there any evidence of links with the networks associated with the attacks of September 11. Ridiculously simplistic caricatures that completely miss the complexity of how ordinary Muslims discern what causes and ideas they are wanting to link their wagon to. So in addition to transnational networks, there were others specifically interested in what does local radical ideology take. And the other thing that I need to say is that there was some, not yet, there were others who took an interreligious dialogue approach, and I went to a number of these events, and I am not wanting to be misunderstood as I make this critical comment. These comments of mine and these opinions of mine, I hope, will not contradict the opinions of other people on this panel or others. There are good ways of being involved in interreligious dialogue. But many of the ways that I have seen is that we take the most progressive and liberal advocates from specific religious communities, we bring them together, and there is no struggle, there is no disagreement, and we don't invite the conservative, confessional voices who have had no contact with someone who is different from them. There is a number of books that have analysed the problem. In some parts of the Middle East, some governments are specifically co-opting Salafi activists to be involved in interreligious dialogue. In other parts of the Muslim majority world, they are choosing the leaders of Sufi tariqat, completely ignoring the fact that there are many tariqat that are actively involved in supporting violence. So I think that this problem, this dynamic of interreligious dialogue, we need to be thinking critically about this, and we can be grateful that many people have written very persuasive monographs about this. So there are old things. Next one, please. There are old ideas that have been done and done again. And in South Thailand, there have been some new thinking, linking the violence to political dysfunction within Thailand. Violence is a primarily political problem. The phenomenon, secondly, the phenomenon of Buddhist violence. If anyone has had any interaction with the literature about Myanmar and Sri Lanka, and I could go on, and Thailand, who knew Buddhists are able to be violent? Who knew? Which reminds us that violence is primarily, it is a human problem. The other encouraging development is an attention in just in the last decade of attention to mental health. How many of you know people actively involved in extremist ideas? How many of you know people actively involved, actively engaging in ideas that you profile as dangerous? Anyone? How many of you, well, you haven't got your hands up, but maybe there are others. If you've been involved in this group, you know there are young men who have got some serious mental health issues. And I might add, probably addiction issues as well. And if you're not an anthropologist and you don't hang around ordinary Muslims, you may be surprised that addiction and Islam do go together. Another development, language, attention to language, and I've run out of time to talk about that. The importance of education, which is related to language, unemployment and poverty. Who knew we don't have lots of violence in healthy countries where people have their needs met? The next to nothing has been done, and I really want to emphasize this point. Next to no research in Thailand in the south has been done amongst conservative, traditional Muslim communities that are Malay speaking. They don't speak Thai. They completely reject Salafi, revivalist, Muhammadiyah, modernism. They're not interested. They are rural. They are traditional. They are conservative. They don't speak Thai. They live in villages. Me and my team and only one other Thai anthropologist over the last 20 years has conducted ethnographic research amongst those people. No one else. Because it's dangerous, they say. This is an indictment on the academy. And the other point that I want to add is studies of cultural heritage. Very, very little done about the cultural heritage of Bono, of Kitab, of the different ulama. Almost nothing done, which is perceived rightly as an insult by the state and those that fund research, including foreigners, about the importance of local things. Very briefly. So there's a need, next one please, there's a need to be asking ourselves, are we putting the funding cart before the research horse? Many of us, the analysis that I've done in the Muslims in Thailand bibliography project shows us that the vast majority of people involved in research of Muslim minorities in Thailand, they get their funding from sources wanting to support such funding, and they will be interested in violence and completely miss issues of mental health, of language use, of language loss, of poverty, of deprivation and underdevelopment. I've gone over my time, for which I apologise, and looking forward to hearing our next speaker. Thank you very much for your attention.
Well, you still have 5 minutes left, actually, but it's okay. Okay, yeah, thank you. It's very thorough observation about the relation between power and scholarships in studying religion, especially that taking place in certain Thailand. Now, let's jump to the other part of the world. Please, Dr. Riyad. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm not in a different part of this world. I'm among my people, my Indonesian nation people. I love them too much. Yeah, thank you for having me, and it's my pleasure to share my ideas with you. Specifically talking about conflict or violence between religious people, Muslim, Christians, and Jews. In the Palestinian case, we have problem with Jewish people, Yahudi. And always when he said Yahudi, la'natullah alayh, directly, right? In Indonesian here, Yahudi, la'natullah alayh, directly, which is not in the Quran, by the way, because they're people of the book, and they have the Torah, and they are human in the end. So we're living in the other part of the world that's true, because we have a specific conflict with the Yahudi. But not la'natullah, God guide them to the true faith. That's my heart when I talk about Jewish. Okay, so my name's Iyad. I'm from Palestine, Tabibarat, West Bank. I was in Jordan. I'm not Jordanian, but I get my PhD from Jordan University because we don't have PhD in Palestine at that time. So I have to choose Al-Azhar or Turkey or Jordan. So I got scholarship in Jordan. That's why I live 7 years in Jordan. Okay, so when we talk about conflict, human, they have, because we are human. We have competition, we have my sources, my own thought, it's mine, like selfishness, which is human nature. We have conflict with our wives. I don't know how much, but there is some conflict with wives. If you have Satos, three Sajja, we have little problems, but if you have multi, like Ta'addud, you have like civil war. You know, and in hadith, in the hadith Nabawi Sharif, in the hadith, Muhammad ﷺ has many wives, and every day he has many problems with his wife. He has problems outside of the mosque, and he will come back. This is the truth. So we have conflict in family issues, in your personal life, and also in your kids, and your neighbors, and your friends, and others. So this is the reality. This is the life. This is the world we live. And but how can we solve those conflicts or reduce it? We can't solve it 100%. This is the fact. We can't make it zero conflicts, zero violence, zero war. Even in the time of Muhammad ﷺ or all of the prophets, God sent, my paper talking about the purpose, maqasid. Maqasid, like maqsood, like maqsood, maqasid, the purpose of the scriptures. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the prophets and sent down the books, Torah, Zabur, Injil, and Quran, all those prophets and books to make the people happy, hayat tayyiba, good life. This is the main purpose. And God sent those prophets and those books to be in His presence, how to live in God's presence, how to be living in God's will and God's wisdom, to be representative of Allah, akhlaqullah, how we can reflect God's ethic, maybe akhlaq. This is our goal in our life. So even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the prophets and the books, but still there is a war. Even in the time of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there is many wars with mushrikeen, pagans, and with Yahud and some Christians. War, I mean war like materialistic war, not just debate or argument, you are blah, blah, blah. No, sometimes we use the sword, the power. But again, I'm looking to the scriptures in the way of the maqasid. How can I understand the scripture, the text, under the eye of maqasid? What is the purpose of the verse, or the ayah, or the chapter, or the entire book, like Quran, Torah, Zabur, Injil? As you know, the issue of Palestine, since I'm from Palestine, that's other part of this world, okay? We have conflict with Palestinian, we have conflict with Palestinian and Jewish, Israeli. One thing is very important. In the time of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Jewish in the Medina, they are not the true, most of them, not the true believer. When Muhammad make debates with those Jewish in Yathrib, in Medina, they are not a true believer. Because they said, for example, Ibrahim was a Jewish. There's no Jewish man, true Jewish man said that Ibrahim was a Jewish. وقالت اليهود والنصارى first وقالت اليهود والنصارى إبراهيم first they said we are Ibrahim is Jewish and Christian said he is Christian. So the Quran said ما كان إبراهيم يهوديا ولا نصرانيا وكان حنيفا مسلما وما كان من المشركين. So there is no Christian, no true Jewish said that Ibrahim is a Jewish. And then there is another verse saying when Muhammad said, I am a prophet, believe in me, God sent me. And they said, no, you are not a prophet. Actually, Allah never ever sent any prophets. Surah Al-An'am, Then the Quran saying, قُلْ مَنْ جَاءَ مَنْ أَنزَلَ الْوَحْيِ الَّذِي جَاءَ بِهِ مُوسَى. So what about the revelation that came through Moses, alayhi salatu wasalam? So in conclusion, most of the Jewish in the Medina, they are not a true believer. Even when they test Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they try to test him, and they said, "Listen, we have a problem here. How we can judge with this problem?" In chapter Surah Al-Ma'idah, chapter 5, Al-Quran Kareem said, فَإِنْ جَاءُكَ فَاحْكُمْ بَيْنَهُمْ أَوْ أَعْرِضْ عَنْهُمْ وَإِنْ تَعْرِضْ عَنْهُمْ فَلَنْ يَضُرُّكَ شَيْءٌ وَإِنْ حَكَمْتَ فَاحْكُمْ بَيْنَهُمْ بِالْقِسْطِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُقْسِطِينَ وَكَيْفَ يُحَكِّمُونَكَ وَعِنْدَهُمْ تَوْرَاةٌ. They have the Torah, but they are not true believers. They have the Torah, but they have other books beside it. So the Quran told them, go to the books. If you want to be a true believer, go back to the books. Sorry about that. Many Muslims, again, they have the Quran, but it's decoration. I saw many Malaysian and Indonesian came to Al-Aqsa Mosque and take a selfie, mashallah. They think, wow. Or many of them go to Umrah, Hajj, which is, wow, holy, became like a holy. But there is a book between their hands, but they don't read it mostly. They read other books, Shafi'i, Sunan. I respect all of them in my head, in my eyes, in Arabic, al-ra's wal-ayn. But also we have to focus in the Quran and what is the maqasid of the Quran. And the Torah is Zabur Injil, by the way. So back to the conflict. In the Quran, talking about the people in the Medina, they are not a true believer. And now, right now, Yehudi in Palestine, most of them not true believers. Most of them business. Benjamin Netanyahu, Smotrich, I will not mention many names, you don't know, maybe some of them you know those names. They are business. They came to Palestine, the Holy Land, to take this area to do their own business. They are secular. Jewish around the world, 15 million people, only 15 million, nothing. Indonesian, you can eat them. If everybody, you will sink them. Really, I'm not joking. But they have power, and 50% of them are in West, 50% of them. Just 50% inside Palestine, they called it Israel. And those people who live in Palestine or Israel, they are not a true believer, most of them. The true believer outside of Palestine, those Jewish, they have the Torah, and those Jewish inside Palestine, they have the Torah, but they miss a different understanding. The Jewish are outside of Palestine, they said, this Israel is bid'ah. Bid'ah, you know, not sunnah, bid'ah. In their mind, this is bid'ah. I don't know how to make it in English, bid'ah. Yeah, innovation. So, like heresy, maybe. Yeah, so they said, we should wait al-Masih. So they're denying Jesus, Isa alayhi salam. They said, no, Jesus is, Isa alayhi salam is a false prophet. But alhamdulillah, we are Muslims, we believe in Isa alayhi salam. We said Isa alayhi salam. For Jewish, all Jewish, 15 million, they don't believe in Jesus at all. They deny him as a Messiah. So the 50% of Yehudi outside of Israel, they said we should wait the Messiah. When the Messiah coming, then we will establish our state. The 50% inside Israel said, no, we can't do it. Actually, it sounds like Shia. They said we can establish our state. Some of them said we should wait to the Mahdi, then we can start our state. Some Shia said, no, we can Wilayat al-Faqih. We can make some position called Wilayat al-Faqih and make it before the Al-Mahdi coming. So anyway, so when we look to the Quran maqasid, the purpose is God created us to be with Him and Allah to be with us. How to be, we are like, إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, I will make Khalifa, representative. Then the angel said, قال الملائكة إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة قالوا أتجعل فيها من يفسد فيها ويسفك الدماء. In the very beginning, we are trouble creation, killing, and corruption. So the corruption and conflict and war, it's in our DNA. Really, but when we receive mercy of Allah, we became peaceful. We became merciful. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Not Bismillah al-Jabbar al-Qahhar, which is true, but no, start with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. As one of the speakers saying about mahabba, I think that's the first man talking about mahabba, love. Yeah, so how in Islam you should to love, actually in Arabic we have love, hub, but we have more deep degree of love, mawadda. So I love you. In English we have just I like you, I love you. I don't know in Bahasa how many level of love you have. In Arabic we have 25 degree of love, really. We have different, if you know Arabic, there is different level of loves, different levels. So I can't say to my wife in Arabic, أنا أحبك, because I can't say أنا أحبك for my friend. I should to say something deep, like in the Quran, mawadda. So, and in the Quran, so the conflict between men and women as a husband and wife should be based on mawadda and rahma. وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً, like deep love and mercy. So how to use these terms even for my kids, my children, and my neighbor? And the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he is still telling us about you should to love your neighbor, not next to you. The seventh one, so far. Think about a village. It's not like right now. It's one building. We have 15, like one building. At that time, 7, it means I don't know how many meters. So, if we hold the mahabba, love and mercy, then I think there is tension and there's conflict, but will be down too much. Now back to the Jewish. I want to share something with you. As I told you, the Jewish in the time of Muhammad, most of them not a true believer. Nowadays, most of Jewish in Palestine, they are not a true believer. So how can we solve the problem of Palestine? We should, as a Muslims, and Malay people also, because they are most popular, and I mean population around the world, you have to make cooperation with the Jewish outside of Palestine and say to them, hey, brothers, we are people of the book. You have Torah and we have Quran. Hey, listen, you have some trouble kids in Palestine. Take care about them, please. This is the way. Actually, Jewish, they are very smarter than us. They go to Christians and they said, we are your partner. You believe in the Torah. As a Christian, you believe in the Torah. And we are weak. We need your support. That's why Trump, and I will not talk about political right now, but yeah, so they took many supporting, not this year, many decades, almost 1 century. They supported Western supporting Israel as a people of God. That's true. The Quran saying God choose people, Bani Israel. God, لقد اخترناهم على علم على العالمين. There is another verse that Allah فضلناهم على العالمين. God preferred them among all nations, but not because they are Jewish, because of their deeds, behaviors, salihin. They are righteousness. They are good. They worship only Allah, not worshiping others, mushrikeen. No, that's why Allah chose them. But if Allah chose you, then it's not your, okay, I'm choosing man, I have to do anything and occupy the others, the nation, or kill other nation. Then you are not the preferred. Allah will not choose you as a chosen people. So they use this term, as it's mentioned in the Quran, by the way, and they said, we are people of God. And then the Torah saying, plus Israel, actually plus, not Israel, the state, plus Ibrahim and his descendants, because they are good, they are righteousness, not because they are Jewish in their name as Jewish or labels. Back to now in the time of Isa alayhi salam. Isa alayhi salam was Yehudi. When he was grow up as Yehudi, he was reading the Gospel, the Bible, the Torah, and he teaching in the synagogues, and every Sabbath, Saturday, in the synagogues in Palestine before 2,000 years, and he was growing as a Jewish. Again, in the time of Isa alayhi salam, they were under occupying of Roman. As Palestinian right now, we are under occupation of Israel Isa alayhi salam was under occupation of Roman. And people waiting for a man, a king, to give them freedom. In their mind, as a Jewish mind, they think freedom, it means we control everything. We will be free to do anything, like emperor. But when Isa alayhi salam came, he said, my kingdom is not belong to this world. I'm not looking for materialistic kingdom. I'm talking about God's heart, God's love and mercy. Jews said, what? Isa, in their mind, in their books, is greater than David, Dawood alayhi salam. Kingdom of the David and Sulaiman, they control everything. It's written in the Quran, سَخَّرْ لَهُ الطَّيْرُ وَالْجِنِّ. So the birds, even the shaitan works under the control of Solomon. So Isa should be more than. When Jesus, Isa alayhi salam, came, where is your kingdom? Where's your army? Said, it's not belong to this. Now, same time in Palestine, where is our army? I said, we don't need army, just we need hearts of Allah. We need love. Okay. So at the time of Isa, there is 4 types of people in his time, Jewish, because they are under occupation. One is Farisi, like a scholar. They care about scripturing, like Salafi, Sufi, I don't know. I will not mention names, but they focusing in the tradition, in heritage, religion, spend their time, many years studying. Occupation, we don't care. We're just teaching the books and scriptures. This is Farisi, the first group. The other group is called Sadduqim, which is thinking about the temple, and they good relationship with occupation. They have good relationship because to be a leader of the temple, you should do good relationship with the Roman, those Sadduqim. In Palestine, we have a group like this. We have PA, which is Palestinian president, but there is cooperation with Israel because the main thing is stop resist or against Israel. This is Sadduqim. The third one is Maccabim, Maccabiyin or Maccabim, those Zalat people. The Jewish, they kidnapped some Roman and they killed them. Mujahideen, like Daesh, ISIS. They are, in the time of Isa, they kidnap or hijack some Romans and kill them. But they are very few. Last one is like isolated. They don't care about the life at all. They isolate everything, go to the caves and reading and fasting, praying, just intimation, like that's all. But when Jesus came, he talked with all the groups. Come to the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in love and mercy. And then he told them, listen, this is very important in the Injil. He said, love, it's written, love your neighbor. But I say, love your enemy. Because if you love your neighbor, it's okay, everybody loves your neighbor. If I say, love your wife, I said, oh, sure, I should. Love your kids, oh, sure, I do it. But if you say, love your enemy, this is make you different. So, in the Quran, actually, one verse, Surah Fussilat, this is very important. Mostly shuyukh, the leaders in mosque, masjid, they said, قَاتِلُوا الَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُوا, or something like that. وَجَاهِدُوا فِي سَبِيلِ وَقَاتِلُوا الْمُشْرِكِينَ كَافَّةً كَمَا يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ كَافَّةً. Many times, but very rare somebody said, ولا تستوي الحسنة ولا السيئة ادفع بالتي هي أحسن السيئة فإذا الذي بينك وبينه عداوة كأنه ولي حميم. I will translate this verse. So the Quran is saying, Surah Fussilat, is not equal somebody when he attack you with bad action, you should to respond good, not good actually, the better, ahsan. So normal people, if I give you 1 box, you give me 3, right? I have to show you more. But the equal is 1-1. It's written in the Torah, by the way. وكتبنا لهم فيها أن النفس بالنفس والعين بالعين والأذن بالأذن والسن والسن والجروح قصاص. This is written in the Quran, Surah Al-Ma'idah, but it's the same verse in the Sifr Khuruj, Exodus, in the Torah. So the Quran just reflects what is mentioned in the Torah. إن العين بالعين, eye for an eye, nose for eyes, tooth by. This is written in the Exodus, in the Torah. So the Quran focuses on this. This is like justice. But more justice, we have love. So if somebody, one box is equal, but the Quran say no. One box, then you smile. Then your enemy will shocked. Why are you smiling? It's crazy. Another one. Thank you. What? Another one. Then, but he in the Quran said, "Idfa billati ahsan as-sayyi'a, fa idha alladhi baynaka wa baynahu adawa ka'annahu waliyyun hamim." So what is your purpose? To make him my brother, not kill him and send him to the hell, fire hell. My purpose with Yehudi or anybody is my enemy. I have to love him because I have empathy. I want him to be saved and to be in the Jannah, inshallah. So then the Quran said, وَمَا يُلَقَّاهَا الَّذِي. It's so hard. وَمَا يُلَقَّاهَا إِلَّا الَّذِينَ صَبَرُوا وَمَا يُلَقَّاهَا إِلَّا كُلُّ ذُو حَظٍّ عَظِيمٍ. Time's up. Thank you for listening. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it was very exciting. So we lost of time a little bit, but that's okay. In Indonesia we can okay lah sedikit. Okay, for the next speakers, we jump to another part of the world, in Malaysia. Please, Dr. Atifa, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The respected Dean, Director, the distinguished speakers and all the participants and also the great organizer. A great pleasure to be here. Saudara-saudara, adik-beradik dari Malaysia, salam dari Malaysia semuanya. Yeah, sama-sama. Can you open my slide? Okay, today I will take this opportunity to share with all of you about the peaceful coexistence in multi-religious Malaysia, inter-religious issues and the socio-religious harmony framework. Let me introduce myself. I am Atifah binti Ahmad Yusof, Senior Lecturer at Department of USHULUDDIN and Dakwah, Academy of Islamic Studies, University Malaya, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. As an introduction, next slide. The socio-religious landscape in Malaysia is unique, where the intricate interconnection between ethnicity and religion often give rise to highest law in Malaysia, where it put Islam as the religion of the country. When Islam is the religion of the country, how about other religion? Let me explain to you after this, but in this article, Article 3, declare Islam as the religion of the Federation, the Malay rulers as the head of Islam, Yang di-Pertuan Agong serve as the head of Islam for the state without rulers and administration of Islamic institution. So in Malaysia, there is Islamic institution that organize the issues of Muslim or Islam there that we call JAKIM, and every state they have their own Islamic institution. But in the Federal Constitution, in the spirit of unity within diversity, freedom of religion in Malaysia is safeguarded by the Federal Constitution. Article 11 allow that every person has the right to profess and practice his or her religion in Malaysia. Even though Islam is the religion of the federation of the country, but other religion can and allow to profess and practice their religion, and every religious group can establish and maintain religious institution and charitable organization, house of worship, they can. But in Article 11(4), restrict the propagation of any religious doctrine among Muslims. Means in Malaysian Federal Constitution, it protects the Islamic faith of the Aqidah of the Muslim from other religion. They are not allowed to propagate other religion message to the Muslim. It is in the Constitution. So, the younger generation, they are not really understand. They are a little bit Constitution illiteracy. They ask why Islam is the religion federation, why Islam, why the Malay rulers, why yang di-Pertuan Agong entrust to safeguard Islam? How about other religion? Historically, long before British colonization, the Malay Peninsula already possessed its own constitutional framework, that Hukum Kanun Melaka. Melaka laws, in which Islam functioned as the law of the land of all Malay Sultanate. The latter formed the Federation of Malaya. If the younger generation asks why Islam this and this, we look at the long history of the land. And it reflects the foundational concept of kedaulatan watan in Malaysia that emerged as early as the Malacca Sultanate and was never challenged under British Malayan administration. During the formation of the Federation Constitution, the British have no question, never challenged the act that has been formed in the Federation of Malaya. So, there are several issues in Malaysia that always happen, that happen normally, such as that we can categorize into 3 issues, which are theological issues, ethical issues, and social issues. Such as the house of worship, the system of civil and Sharia court, religious conversion because Malay is a Muslim, so if that Malay want to convert, they are restricted with the constitution. Halal certificate, because in Malaysia we have JAKIM that manage the halal certificate. The usage of Arabic and Quranic terminologies, especially Allah word, we will discuss after this. Religious funeral and also other religious propagation toward Muslim. And if I can say several, the example of the theological issues, insulting God, prophet, religious text, religious practices, and the right to convert. And the example of ethical issues are insulting religious symbol, the disease of other faith, disregarding dietary restriction, be serving alcohol or serving the meat to the Buddhists and also Hinduism. The status of Islam as a religion of the federation also, most of the time, will be the issue for the younger generation. Social issues such as respecting the azan, call to prayer, vandalism toward worship, place worship, and then respecting religious ceremony. There is a lot of issues in Malaysia to visit other religion worship place, and also using violence and also promoting one religion without regard for the federal constitution. In Malaysia, there is no physical conflict, there is no religious violence, there are debate, there is a digital war in what we call in social media, and that is always happen. And the dynamic of Muslim-Christian relation in Malaysia, it take a long debate and hot debate, is the use of, you can go to the slide. Yeah, this one. Can you make it slide presentation? Yes, yeah. The use of Allah word in Malay Bible. This is a long and hot debate because Muslim scholars in Malaysia, they are not agree with the use of Allah word in Malay Bible. If the Christian want to interpret the God in Malay, the right word is Tuhan, not Allah. Allah is the Arabic word that is not usual to be used by other religion. In Malaysia, we are not using Arabic. So there is a question why the Christian want to use the Arabic word. The Allah is exclusively for Muslim. So it is a long debate since 2001, and even until now, the issues has been resolved in the court, Malaysian court, that Christians are not allowed to use the word Allah in their Bible, in their Malay Bible. The next issues among Muslim-Christian relation in Malaysia is the spread of Bible and Christian messages toward Muslim. Even though there is Act Article 11, Clause 4, that don't allow the other religion to propagate their religion to Muslim, but this year, even this year, early of the year 2005, there is still a spread of Christian messages pamphlet in the public. Yeah, so it's happened, and the visit of church, youth program Jom Ziarah Gereja once since this year, because Kementerian Belia and Sukan want to promote the religious, what we call cultures, to visit church, but it's not following the guideline, so the program is not allowed to be done. It's happened to public, what we call public don't allow that, and it's means that in social media it's very viral. They are not allowed to do that. Dynamic of Muslim-Hindu relation in Malaysia. There is a case, the Kurban ritual, Kurban ritual during Eid al-Adha in school compound, which is a sensitive issue for the Hinduism to do the Kurban ritual in the school compound, what we call public compound. So after this issue, the government take an action for any Kurban ritual should be done in surau and also only masjid. The same goes to visit of Hindu temple, same the church just now. There is issues until now, and there is already guideline to visit house of worship. And demands of Hindraf, because Hinduism is the Hindus is the minorities in Malaysia, so they demand several what we call act for them to be fair and square in Malaysia. Several factors that lead to the religious tension in Malaysia. The first one is generation gap. the younger generation are not really understand the Malaysian Federal Constitution. And the second one is low constitutional literacy. Yeah, same goes to what I say. Segregation in shared social space. Even though in Malaysia we are living together, we living in a shared space, but we are share not more than that. We living together, but we are not interacting so much. We don't understand each other. What we call, there is even school separated. That is leading to the prejudice and also this negative perception. Mutual ignorance of one another's religious tradition and belief because of the segregation, so they are not understand each other, not understand what are the Muslim sensitivities, and don't understand what are the religion sensitivities. The respect for religious sensitivities, in this last week, there is an event organized by the MOTAC where they serve alcohol in the event. It caused the public debate because it should be not done in the government event. Politicization of religion and provocative content on social media. Thus, in Malaysia, social religious harmony framework in Malaysia context, because it has different and unique federal constitution, where based on Yusuf Qaradawi 2015 in his book The Ghairul Muslimin, where dimension of religion. Can you see the slide? This one here. Dimension of religion can be categorized into two categories, two dimensions, which is faith and also social. If the faith is a relation of human to God, if we focus on the faith dimension, we will go debate, we will conflicting each other, your God, this God, something like that. But that's why we need to focus on social dimension of religion, where relation of the people to people and interpersonal relationship, whatever religion you are, but we are human, we are people. Whatever it is, we are interpersonal relationship that we'll discuss in socio-religious harmony framework, where Islam accepts the existence of other religion in the world. In Malaysia, we focus on religious, we use the right word, religious plurality versus religious pluralism. I sent my proposal of book, Religious Plurality, to be published somewhere in the West. My book was rejected because they not accept the religious plurality, the social harmony. But if I use religious pluralism, they may accept. So what are the difference of religious plurality and versus religious pluralism? Is Islam accept the existence of other religions in the world. But the existence of religious diversity on the earth cannot be denied, yes, because it is the mass of sunnatullah. It is the mass or sunnatullah of creation. And maybe our professor can read the Quran verse. Suratul Ma'idah or Surah Yunus. Ummatan wahidatan. The existence of religious diversity cannot be denied. Cannot be denied because it is sunnatullah. In other words, Islam accepts religious plurality but strictly denies the truth of others except Islam. Due to that, in the lens of humanity, Islam acknowledges their human right that need to be treated politely, their right to profess religion, and also to practice their belief. Next slide. Yeah. In terms of socio-religious relationship, it can be categorized into two. There is religious brotherhood and also humanity brotherhood. Religious brotherhood is Muslim and Muslim, Christian and Christian, and also Hindus and Hindus. As Allah said in At-Taubah, innamal mu'minuna ikhwatun. 49 verse 10. But religious brotherhood is among the same religion. Humanity brotherhood is interreligious adherent. Human origin from oneself, nafsun wahidah. And Allah says in Surah Mumtahanah verse 8, be merciful and compassionate toward others, even the different religious adherent. That is humanity brotherhood. Means that we need to be merciful to them, be compassionate, be mawaddah, love, and mahabbah between the humanity brotherhood. And there is the West country that exists perception of terrorists toward Muslim. Meanwhile, Islam advocate harmony to other religious adherent. The term Islam itself is derived from Arabic word from salama, Islam, salama, which means peace and practice non-violence for the Muslim himself and for others surrounding him. Yusalimu means that to create peace to his surrounding. It cannot be denied our religion also never teach the adherent to act badly to others. Our religion teach to be good to others. And this concept was brought by the Professor Yusuf Dr. Sheikh Qardawi, showing that in Malaysia, the right term for the Muslim, for the non-Muslim that living together but not act badly is musalimun. Musalimun. Musalimun, based on the Professor Yusuf Dr. Qardawi saying that in his book, Ghairul Muslim, Fish al-Mujtami al-Islami, to refer to a non-Muslim that live peacefully with Muslim, where they do not put up fight and hatred against Muslim. So, this Musalimun, Islam appreciate them. Islam appreciate the Musalimun where they must be treated politely, their right must be given, and they must be protected. This is one of the features of Islam, a religion that brings kindness to all creatures on the earth, rahmatan lil alamin, as has been stated in the Quran, Suratul Anbiya, chapter 21, verse 107, rahmatan lil alamin. In Malaysia, there are several efforts to what we call to cultivate the harmony, religious harmony in Malaysia. In 2018, there are research led by me to find out what are the indicators that indicate harmony among religious adherents in Malaysia. There is no physical conflict, there is no religious war, there is no religious violence. We are saying that we have harmony, but what are the indicators? So, the research saying that we developed socio-religious harmony index instrument to measure the level of harmony among religious adherents in Malaysia. To say Malaysian is harmony, there are 6 domains that can be measured, that whether they feel peace or not, whether they feel, where they accept each other or not, whether they understand, mutual understand or not, they cooperate, they give right and justice, or there is conflict. And in Malaysia, the non-physical conflict, as I said, always happen, like tension, prejudice, stereotype, provocation, that always happen. So, in this year, these 2 years, previous slide, there is an effort by the government to develop a Piagam Harmony Malaysia. This is planned to be 3rd document, third highest document after the Malaysian Federation Constitution, after the Rukun Negara. The third one will be this, Piagam Harmoni Malaysia. It is still under process, under the parliament debate, and will be endorsed maybe in next year's Piagam Harmoni Malaysia, that based on the socio-religious framework. And last but not least, in Malaysia, we cultivate the tasamuh. That tasamuh is higher than tolerance. Because tasamuh, we need give and take. We need to respect each other, mutual respect, mutual understanding, and dialogue for mutual understanding. And this year, there is already a guideline of visiting house of worship. Previously, they are, but not specific. Still, even the Perdana Menteri Anwar Ibrahim, when there is any what we call as religious prayer, something like that, when he go, still there is a public debate, even until now. So this recently, Professor Khadijah Hambali, my team, my colleague in Akademi Pengajian Islam, and together with several her team, provide the guideline of visiting house of worship. Means that before you go to the house of worship, you need to have several understanding, basic understanding. Basic understanding need to be given to the participant before you go to the program. And during the program, there are several adab and also ethic inside the house of worship. And after you go to the program, there need to be a debriefing to counter the misunderstanding that maybe happen after the program. All right, and then cooperation in daily activities, constitution and diverse religion literacy, and last but not least, respect religious sensitivities. That's all from me. 20 minutes, I short with the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Atifa. Mas Hasib, aman? Okay. Okay, Dr. McCallum. Dr. McCallum, now the time is yours. Can you hear us? Hold on a second. Okay, can you hear us now? Again? Check sound, please. Sudah, Mas Azib. Okay, you can share the screen, Dr. McCallum. I'm sorry, guys, for the technicality. Udah. Tes. Can you hear? Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, hold on a second. Okay, Dr. McCallum, you can start your presentations. You have 20 minutes. In the meantime, we'll try to share the screen for you. Thank you.
Okay, well, assalamu alaikum. Good morning to you all, and may God's mercy and peace and blessing rest on you all. I hope that you can hear me okay, and it's a great honor and a privilege to be joining your conference on the other side of the world in Oxford today. And I want to congratulate Dr. Ferry and the organizing group on arranging such an exciting conference on such an important topic at such a significant moment in history. As the text from the prophet Jeremiah in the title of my lecture says, we had hoped for peace, but no good has come, for a time of healing, but there is only terror. All around us, the global institutions and international consensus that have been so carefully established since the last World War are crumbling, and we are being plunged back into a time of authoritarianism, uncertainty, and yes, violence. So it is vital that people of goodwill come together from different nations, from different ethnic groups, and from different faiths to discuss the topic of violence and seek peace. The Zabur, or the Psalms of David, in the Hebrew Bible urge us to seek peace and pursue it. In the New Testament of the Bible, the Apostle Paul urges that the Christians in Rome, which at that time was the international center of imperial power, to, if possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. And in the 8th surah of the Quran, Surah Al-Anfal, it says, وَإِن جَنَحُوا لِلسَّلَمْ فَاجْنَحْ لَهَا. If they incline towards peace, you, O Prophet, must also incline towards it. These are wise words, and I'm sure all of us taking part in this conference would gladly echo them. But it's also a great pleasure for me to speak to you today, because back in 2021, Dr. Ferry came to Oxford to spend a year with us at the Centre for Muslim Christian Studies, and we listened to his dreams for a similar centre there in Indonesia. So it's been a great joy for us to see those dreams become reality with the founding of the Centre for Interdisciplinary Studies in Religions and Culture. And it's exciting to see the partnerships that are developing there with the universities. So Ferry, thank you to you and the organising group for your kind invitation this afternoon. The prophet Jeremiah, who I was quoting earlier, or Armiya in Arabic, is known as a major prophet in the Hebrew tradition. But in the Islamic tradition, he's considered a minor prophet. He's not named in the Quran, although some Muslims associate him with Al-Khidr, the servant of God who appears in Surah Al-Kahf. There are various traditions about him. For instance, in the writing of Ibn Kathir, and my favorite is one which takes place after the city of Jerusalem was destroyed during the times of the Babylonians, the big imperial power of the day. And Ibn Kathir writes that Hashim ibn al-Kalbi reported that Allah the Exalted revealed to Jeremiah, I'm going to reconstruct Jerusalem, so go there. He went and found it devastated. And then he sleeps for 70 years with his donkey. And then Jeremiah opens his eyes after 70 years and sees how the city is being reconstructed. And then he drops off to sleep again, and he remains asleep for 100 years. And then Ibn Kathir says, when Allah awoke him, he thought that he'd slept no more than an hour. And the city that had been devastated, he saw it had been rebuilt and repopulated. Maybe this is wishful thinking, I know, but it would be wonderful if we could just ignore the destruction, turn a blind eye to the violence around us, and wake up in a utopian world of peace and tranquility. But whether or not this Rip Van Winkle's tale is true, that was not the full story of Jeremiah's experience. The Hebrew Bible records that Jeremiah's ministry took place against the backdrop of political upheaval in the 7th and 6th centuries BC, with the kingdom of Judah under military threat from the Babylonian Empire. The other so-called prophets in the kingdom were telling the king that there would be peace and all would be well. But Jeremiah comes with the word of the Lord and says, these prophets are saying peace, peace, when there is no peace. Rather, although they had hoped for peace, there was only terror to come. And Jeremiah prophesied destruction of the nation of Israel and advised the people to flee to Babylon. But they wouldn't listen, and they had him beaten. They had him put in stocks. They threw him into prison. They threw him down a muddy well. And finally, when he warned them not to flee to Egypt, they fled to Egypt. And they kidnapped him and they took him with them. It's not easy being a prophet. And it's the same for us. Jeremiah discovered that speaking truth to power is not easy. And it's not always easy speaking the truth to our own communities either. Today, there are plenty of voices, especially here in the West, saying that all religion is violent, just leads to conflict. Somebody mentioned that earlier. The influence of the new atheists has now declined somewhat in the West, but it's just common to hear people like Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, Dan Dennett speaking so negatively about religion. And yet, just look at the 20th century, and it gives the lie to their argument. The 20th century was full of wars and death caused by secular atheism. As somebody said earlier, it's not religion that causes war, it's people. However, there are also those who say that all religions lead to peace. I remember a few years ago, I was at an interfaith vigil here in Oxford after a tragic act of violence had been committed by a terrorist in the name of religion. And a lovely Jewish lady stood up and in glowing words claimed that all religions are basically the same. They all lead to peace. And yet this same lady, some months before, in a private conversation with me, had been denouncing the New Testament as a work of violent anti-Semitism. There was an inconsistency. She clearly did not really believe the facile idea that she was claiming. Her idea of religion might have been peaceful. Apparently, based on the New Testament, was not. So the truth is more nuanced. Not all religion leads to violence, but some does. Not all religion is peace-seeking, but some is. Some Christians are violent, but not all are. Most Muslims are peace-loving, but not all are. The problem in my particular field of Christian Muslim studies is that there are some Christians that want to claim that their religion, of course interpreted in their way, is entirely peaceful, whilst at the same time they claim that Islam is inherently violent and the only true Muslims are the violent jihadis. Likewise, in Muslim communities, there are some that say the so-called Christian West is warmongering and imperialist, unlike their interpretation of Islam. The Public Religion Research Institute in the US did an interesting piece of research on double standards on religion violence amongst Christians in America. And they found that almost 80% of Christians in America do not think a terrorist claiming to act in the name of Christianity is really a Christian. Whereas over half say that Muslim terrorists claiming to act for Islam really are Muslims. Just a few examples will suffice to illustrate this phenomenon. Don Richardson, a Christian missionary in the 1960s and 70s, not far from your center, in Indonesian Papua, later in his career wrote a book called The Secrets of the Quran and revealed that there are at least 109 identifiable war verses in the Quran. 1 out of every 55 verses in the Quran is a war verse. That's a quote from his book, and for him it proves that Islam must be violent. There was another book written by Mark Gabriel, and if you're operating the slides, you can advance to the next slide where there are some book covers. Mark Gabriel, an Egyptian Muslim convert to Christianity, wrote a book entitled Islam and Terrorism: What the Quran Really Teaches About Christianity, Violence, and the Goals of the Islamic Jihad. He wrote, and this is a quote, that fundamentalist Muslims are the ones who perpetrate terrorism. They have the long beards and head coverings. Their goal is to practice Islam as Muhammad did. Though we call them radicals, they are practicing true Islam. And Robert Spencer, an Orthodox Christian, said it all in the title of his book, Religion of Peace, Why Christianity Is and Islam Isn't. There are clearly many Christians who think that Islam is inherently violent. Of course, there are many other Christians who do not, including many Christian scholars. They do not view Islam in that way. But it isn't just Christians who see it this way. There are Muslims who see Christianity in a similar light. Back in 2009, Sheikh Abdul Hakim Morad, also known as Professor Timothy Winter of Cambridge University, wrote an article called America as a Jihad State. And in it, he wrote of a conversation that he had with a Sufi leader in the African desert. And he said that he listened to this wholly traditional Sufi leader expound the view that America's violence towards the Muslim world is a consequence of a Sahwa Mesihiyya, a Christian revival. And Morad says the violence of so much American religion can be traced back to Puritan holy wars against Native Americans. And he goes on to say, and this is a quote, whereas 10 years ago, Muslims tended to view America as a secular republic containing many religious Christians, the perception is now gaining ground that America is a specifically Christian entity whose policies on Israel and whose otherwise mystifying violence against Muslims, whether in occupied countries or in detention, can most helpfully be explained with reference to the Bible. This 10, 15 years on can only now be more true given the dreadful events that have happened recently in the Middle East and Gaza, often with implicit support of those who call themselves Christians. Of course, we know that when it comes to war, including jihad, there are different practices and different theories in both of our traditions. For Christians, there are clearly traditions of holy war, just war, and pacifism. The Holy War had its clearest expression during the Crusades of the 11th to 13th centuries. Preachers such as Bernard of Clairvaux used the Bible and Christian language to recruit fighters and justify the killing. Here's a quote from one of Bernard of Clairvaux's sermons. It says, "Christians, warriors, these are combats worthy of you, combats that will attract the blessings of earth and heaven, in which death itself will be for you but another triumph. Put on the cross, which will earn you the conquest of the celestial kingdom." We can see that they even did these things under the symbol of the cross, which should be a symbol of peace and self-sacrifice. And yet, even in recent days, we have seen the cross raised up again here in London, with people carrying cross and Christian flags as speakers denounced Islam, calling for the expulsion of immigrants. That's the Holy War tradition, but the majority position amongst Christians and all the major denominations, Roman Catholicism, the Orthodox churches, the Anglican Church, is a second position which we call the just war tradition. This is the position that says, and it's following Augustine and Thomas Aquinas, that in order for a war to be just, that there have to be certain criteria that are met. A war has to be fought under the authority of the sovereign. Secondly, it has to be a just war that is required, namely that those who are attacked should be attacked because they deserve it on account of some fault. And thirdly, it's necessary that the belligerents should have a rightful intention so that they intend the advancement of good and the avoidance of evil. And there are criteria about protecting civilians and so on. And then there's a third position, which is a more minority position in the church today, although it was the majority position of the early church, which we call pacifism. And it's the position of the peace churches, such as the Anabaptists, the Mennonites, and the Quakers. And recently, their case for the rejection of all violence has been argued by theologians such as John Howard Yoder, Walter Wink, Stanley Hauerwas. We similarly find three positions in the Muslim tradition. Muslim history began with offensive or expansionist jihad, which saw the Muslim armies reaching France in the west and the Indus River in the east. And the Muslim scholar Tariq Ramadan has recently written about this and very honestly has said that Muslim participation in war can't be explained away or rejected. And he says this is a quote: Islamic history is rife with war, with oppression, with exploitation and colonization. Idealization of the past is of no use in confronting the challenges of our era. Muslims have waged wars of expansion, have established colonial type regimes, enforced religious conversion, upheld slavery. Though they were clearly acting against the principles and prescriptions of their religion, some of them did so while claiming to be acting in the name of Islam. Most modern Muslims would want to emphasize that Islam is a religion of peace and that jihad should only ever be fought in defense. And so Dr. Ahmed Tayyib, the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, has used Surah Al-Hujurat to prove that Islam is a religion of peace and not a religion of aggression. Although, of course, that ayah permits one to fight against the party that transgresses until it complies with the command of Allah if they refuse to make peace. These Muslims would make a similar case for defensive jihad to that of Christian just war theory. And finally, it would be safe to say that a strictly pacifist position, a refusal to fight in any circumstances, has been very rare in Muslim history, as there are clear verses in the Quran commanding Muslims to fight on occasion. Although our sister center in Ghana, the Sana Institute, is just coming to the end of a 3-year project exploring what we call the pacifist tradition of Islam in West Africa. Most of us would choose to emphasize the just war or pacifist tradition. In fact, we would rather ignore the holy war and offensive jihad positions altogether. Some time ago here in CMCS Oxford, we invited 2 scholars, a Christian and a Muslim, to give a shared lecture on these war traditions in the 2 faiths. We asked them not to shy away from the unpalatable, difficult episodes, historical and contemporary, in both faith traditions. However, in the event, each of them failed to really explore the darker side of their history. When we gently reflected on this afterwards, they both said that they didn't feel it was helpful in this post 9/11 world to focus on violence and extremism. That was unfortunate, because it is precisely because we live in a post 9/11 world that we need to talk about the violence that we find in our texts and in our traditions. A few years ago, an American historian, Philip Jenkins, in his book, Laying Down the Sword, examined the lectionary readings of all the major Christian denominations. And he discovered that all of the major denominations actually ignore the violent texts in the Bible during the public reading of Scripture. And the same could be true of in a Muslim context as well. I remember during the height of ISIS, looking at the Darbik magazine that terrible terrorist organization produced, and it was full of color and pictures and text inviting people to come and join their jihads. And some British imams produced a magazine to counter Darbik magazine. It was called Haqiqa, Truth. And in it, they argued that the authors of the Darbic magazine had stopped consulting the Quran and the Sunnah, and they were not true Muslims. The trouble was that each of the 15 editions of Darbic were full of quotations from the Quran and the Hadith. The ISIS writers had clearly not abandoned the Sunnah, but were interpreting it very differently to the British imams. What was needed was for the imams to have a rigorous, rational argument as to why the Sunnah should be interpreted differently in a manner likely to appeal to young Muslims. So as I finish, I applaud this conference, its commitment to look at the issues of religious violence full in the face, and I offer some quick recommendations. First, I think that both Christians and Muslims should not ignore their difficult texts, traditions, and movements. They must not be hidden away because others will find them and misappropriate them. Secondly, this means the public reading of the whole of Scripture, including violent texts. This does not always happen in Christian churches. However, whilst it does happen in mosques around the world, it usually happens in recitations in Arabic that the vast majority of Muslims do not understand. Scripture should also be read in the vernacular as well as the canonical language. Thirdly, following the reading, there needs to be careful explanation of how these difficult texts are to be interpreted. They cannot be taken literally as incitement to violence. There has to be another way of understanding them. And fourthly, it's important that Muslims, Christians, and academics should be free to engage in rigorous examinations of physical manuscripts, textual histories, interpretive traditions. It's not Orientalist to ask difficult questions with the right motivation. Orientalism must never be confused with the rigorous critical work, honestly posing questions and seeking answers together. And finally, it's healthy for our two communities to read their scriptures together, to dialogue and to deepen one another's understanding. I totally agree with Christopher when he said in his opening talk that dialogue should include conservatives, radicals, Salafis, right-wing evangelicals. They should be there at the table. It cannot just be the progressives and the liberals and the interfaith peaceniks. And this might be seen as a shared ijtihad, a shared struggle to understand, interpret, and apply our texts. And that's why I applaud what you're doing there at the conference, and I applaud the CISRC Center for bringing Christians and Muslims together to read texts. It's a hopeful sign of the possibilities of understanding between our communities as we seek to combat the violence around us. And then, maybe, we will find the peace and healing of which the prophet Jeremiah spoke. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. McCallum, for the presentations. So now I turn to the voice in the audience. Okay, we have, let's see, 36 minutes to our time before we will finish our session today. So I will give 3 persons. 1, 2, this side, please. Woman, please. No one. Okay, thank you. Sini semuanya. Okay, monggo, Mas. And please mention your name and which presenter you want to ask.
Okay, Bismillah. My name is Abdul Rafiq Asnawi from University of Darussalam Gontor. I would like to ask to Mr. Iyad Abu Rabi. Considering that the language of the Holy Scriptures all belongs to the Semitic family, do you think it is possible or necessary to interpret all of them in the shared, the same rhetoric? It means Semitic rhetoric, to interpret them through a common rhetorical framework. It means Semitic rhetoric, or Balaghah as-Samiyah. Do you think it is possible or necessary or not? This is my question. Thanks.
Thank you. Next.
Yes, thank you. My name is Abdul Qadir Yadi, the Dean of the faculty. I am interested in the digital war that Dr. Atiko was mentioning, and I think that the tension, the conflict, even the war between Muslims, non-Muslims, has been shifted from, say, physical war into digital war. And I think digital war is also dangerous as physical war. Now in Indonesia, we have witnessed so many tension between Muslims and Christian apologetics attacking each other on the belief system of Islam and of Christianity. So I think it is very interesting also to look at in a deeper way of the nature of digital war, and what can we do to tackle the issue, considering that digital war has been very dangerous and threatening into the very structure of our society. So I am very concerned with digital war, and I am interested to listen more from our speakers, also from our speaker online from Oxford on this problem. Yes, thank you.
Next.
Okay, thank you. My name is Nisa. I'm from UNIVERSITAS AMPEL Surabaya, and my question is to Dr. Iyad. So you mentioned before that there are hostilities between Muslim and Jews in many places in the world, especially in Palestine. And then my question is, do you believe that interfaith dialogue can be a genuine solution, or does it risk in normalizing structural violence, as some critics that argue? For example, in the Abrahamic Accord in 2020, so which prioritized diplomatic normalization over addressing the root injustice in Palestine. So what do you think about interfaith dialogue in responding the structural violence in Palestine? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Dr. Iyad, I think you have the most questions. You can start. Thank you.
Thank you for a great question. I will start with semiotics. Yeah, sure. When we read the Quran specifically, and Torah and Injil, by the way, we should to read it in the original language, Hebrew, or unfortunately the Gospel is translation from Greek to English to Malay, and we don't have the original texts in Aramaic or Syrianic, the Injil. The Torah, we have the Hebrew, modern Hebrew, we have scripture in Hebrew, and there's still people speaking Hebrew, modern Hebrew and ancient Hebrew, and the Quran keep it as it's Arabic, but different Arabic standard right now. There's many words, it's different. But when I read the Quran, I will give you one of the tensions, as sister said about Allah. Some Muslims, they said, oh, don't use in the Injil Allah, because Allah just belongs to Islam. This is wrong, by the way. Yeah, because Allah is not only for Muslims, followers of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Actually, Allah came from El. El, it's used by El first, then Elohim is like exalted El, make him like a plural. But so God is one, but Allahumma, like Elohim, like is exalted Allah, El. This is in the Torah. In Injil, even it's written in Greek, but still some words are Aramaic. One of them, Eloi, when Jesus was on the cross, and he said, Eli, Eli, lama shabaktani. It's Aramaic. Eli, it means my God, Allah. Ilahi, Ilahi in Arabic. So still Eloi, Eli, El, Elohim, Allah. Semitic, same. But because of tension, Christians said, oh, our God is not Allah, it's God. Actually, God is not English, by the way. It's like, Okay, again, for Christian, they have in the very beginning Eloi, Ele, then a translation from Semitics to Greek at that time, because it's an international language, became Theos. Now Allah in their mind is Theos, which is a Greek god, so it has a wives and sons or something like that. Theos, and then moved to Latin language, become Gata, or Gat. Then goes to German, use God, which is one of their gods, by the way. And in English, make it God, G-O-D. Now, 500 years ago, you can read all the scriptures of gospel, Gata, but if you read it in Greek, Theos. But if you go back to Jesus, Isa, if Jesus, imagine Isa right now and say, oh, we believe in God. You say, who's God? I don't know what you're talking about. You said Eli or Allah or something, he will understand that. So yes, sure, we have to understand we should, daruri, and you must understand. One more example about al-Masih, because there is one conflict between Muslim and Christian. What is the meaning of al-Masih? So unfortunately, many Arabs take the meaning of, this is from Hebrew, Mashiach. Mashiach, it means the anointed one. God chose him for some purpose, the huge, important purpose, a Messiah, or in English Messiah, but Mashiach in Hebrew. Then in Arabic, because when they switch from Hebrew to Arabic, they switch the sin to sha or sha to sin. For example, in Arabic, this one is sin, like to the sin. Wow. In Hebrew, shin. So the sin converted to sha. If it's a sha, rosh, in Hebrew, ra, head, in Arabic it became ras. So Shabbat, like Yom Sabtu, Sabtu sha, Shabbat. Sabtu, you took it from Arabic, Sabt, Yom Sabt. Anyway, so Masih, from the Hebrew Mashiach, it's come to Muslim or Arabic language to make Masih. Now they go, unfortunately, to the Arabic luxury. So Masaha, it means clean or take a tour. So many Muslims commentators, if you go back to the commentaries, you can see Masih means a tourist man. Yeah, that's the true meaning in their mind, because they are not, siyaha. Sometimes in Jawa, Tabi Jawa, sometimes Bonorogo, went to the Papua, like this in their mind. Which is true, by the way, because Jesus, Isa was moving from Galilee to Jerusalem, but this is not the true meaning of Messiah. Messiah, it means somebody or Allah or God anointed that man for a main purpose. So because they don't take it from Hebrew perspective, they switch it to Arabic, and then they dismiss the point of that word. So I hope that I answer you, because it's very important to read the scripture and the language of each of the scripture. Hebrew for the Torah, Greek for now, and Aramaic if we have for Injil, and the Quran, an Arabic word, not in translation. Or I don't know what about translation, Indonesian translation of the Quran is good or not. I don't have experience, but it's up to you. The other question about normalization, I don't agree with the normalization with Israeli state, because we are Palestinian, consider Israel as occupation. For us, we distinguish between the state of Israel and the people of the Jewish. People of the Jewish are not alike, as Doctor in this presentation said, not all of them same. In the Quran say, لَيْسُوا سَوَاء. لَيْسُوا, they are not alike. لَيْسُوا سَوَاء مِنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ أُمَّةٌ قَائِمَةٌ يَتْلُونَ آيَاتِ اللَّهِ. Allah said that some Jewish, they are good. They are worshipping Allah, and they are reciting the Torah, and they follow the plan of Allah, and they commitment with that. And same, Christian, not all alike, and Muslims, they are not alike. So, as a state of Israel, we don't agree with it. And any countries, like some countries, they make agreement with Israel, and they try to make Abrahamic. They use this one. For me, they are very smart. So we should, as a believer, to do that before them. So they take something very valuable, something very important, they take advantage of it and say, this is the truth. No, you take advantage of that truth. So for me, as a Muslim, as believe in Allah and His scriptures and His books of prophets, we should, as a believer, to take this initiative before them. But anyway, they did it, but actually they use it as accusation to make Israel as a state of peace and cooperation and those issues. For me, I don't agree with this political issue. We talk about faith, about relationship, how to be, all of us love each other and coexistence in the kingdom or of the presence of Allah. Yeah.
And again, it's like dialogue. It's elitist, okay? So the problem with certain forms of dialogue is it is scripted. Everyone is told what to say, and people are not invited if they're not going to say, if they're not going to follow the script. And the other thing is that form of interreligious scripted dialogue, it's elitist. It's elitist and it's scripted, and it is very, very tempting. And I'm speaking personally now. It's very, very flattering, and it's very, very tempting when you are a struggling academic with a degree of academic credibility, with loose relations with confessional communities, and more importantly, no interest in the poor. So if I'm not interested in the poor, and I'm struggling, and I'm an overeducated idiot, someone taps me on the shoulder and says, "Oh, would you like to come and be involved in this dialogue?" You know, so I think that my philosophically, but more important, theologically, we have to be very, very careful about giving our voice and even giving our presence to an initiative which is invested primarily in political power that may be linked to lethal force.
That's very encouraging. Do you want to add something about Malaysia or something? Okay. There is a question about the digital war. So you want to comment on that?
Right. I'm respond about the digital wars. In Malaysia, in this year, there is increase of the posts in social media. Compared to last year, that in Malaysia, MCMC, the unit of that control all the social media in Malaysia, they take down about thousands posting that touch about the 3R, religion, races, and also the religion, races, and what we call another one? 3R, Raja. All these three issues in Malaysia, if it is posted and insulting all these 3R, it will be taken down and also will be charged. In July 2025, there is a new act in Malaysia under the section of 507B and also 507G in response to the digital issues that we see that technology that emerging now. So first, enforcement of the enactment, that is the first one. The government has to take the responsibility and enforce the rules and regulation to control the digital war that happen nowadays. The second one is we need to train and also to teach and also to train our younger generation about the digital ethic. Digital ethic is not yet in the school syllabus, not yet in the school curriculum, not yet. So it is important to teach the younger generation about what is can be or cannot, and also the anonymous confession, anonymous account, and algorithm effect. When the one posting is so viral, the algorithm effect will make it more viral. And the third one that I can say is to the role of AI. The role of AI now, we need to train the AI about what are the sensitivities that cannot be posted or cannot be posted online. Then they can, AI can we train them to take down all the negativity and also insulting in social media. There are three that I can suggest, but how about other speakers? Thank you.
Dr. McCallum, do you want to respond to the trend of digital war on, not digital war, digital conflict on, you know, like bullying or mocking or something online? Can you hear? Hello, Dr. McCallum, can you hear my voice? Okay, yeah, there is a question about the trend of digital war in terms of, you know, like among religions. Do you have any comment on that? Thank you.
Thank you. Sure. I haven't been able to hear all of the discussion, but certainly the digital space is really important today, and it's a two-edged sword, ironically, because it can actually be used for good. So I have forums where I'm trying to hold together, particularly Christians, but some of them are Christian Muslim, people with very diverse views. So some would be a lot more right-wing views, and others would be maybe more liberal. But in a digital space, we're trying to hold that together. It doesn't always work. I've sometimes had to close the forum down because it becomes too tense. But on the negative side, we just know that there is so much information out there, and it is not all true. And we have to be extremely diligent in trying to track down sources. So just this last week, there was an article written by a right-wing Christian lobby group here in London, and it quoted a certain statement made in a national newspaper. And so I tried, I used AI to track down the quote that the newspaper had used. And AI assured me, yes, there are definite citations that prove this is true. When I went to those citations, it still wasn't the original. So I asked AI again. I said, can you track down the original quote? And then AI eventually came back, and it was very honest. It said, I'm very sorry, I've made a mistake. This is AI saying this. I made a mistake. I should have been more careful. I cannot find the original source, and it all seems to go back to one particular newspaper article for which there is no evidence. And so academics like us have to be very careful to do the rigorous work of holding people to account, of not letting, these people aren't extremists, they're not out throwing bombs, but they are influencing communities that then go on to do that. And so we have to hold these people to account and say, look, we are tracing your sources. You are not being factual. It's hard work, but that's part of what being an academic's about.
Could I add a bit more to that? I'm sorry, I am aware that I have unreasonably strong opinions about almost everything. And that, and I think that those of us who are a bit older and have had the privilege to have had a religious formation, whether that's in a seminary or in Basantaran, and some of us maybe at a doctoral level, to try and talk some sense and to make some warnings. I think that we need to consider the fact that we, if we haven't already got there already, we are dangerously close to tipping into increasing social disintegration because of the simple fact that most people would prefer to have a network than to have friends. They would prefer to follow people who give introduced to them by an algorithm than for them to go out of their way and to travel in the Surabaya traffic and to go and join a halakah and sit and talk with an ordinary person. And to do that in the company of other people that, let's just be honest, they may not like. Now that is within their own Christian or Jewish and Muslim tradition. And I think that my encouragement is that when it comes to answer your question about a digital warfare, that we may need to do something extreme and say, why don't we join the resistance? Why don't we disconnect from networks? And why don't we build relationships within our own religious tradition and outside those religious traditions? So there is a problem of credibility and integrity about saying this thing can come good if we just treat it this way. I think it's my position. I don't use any social media. I've got Google algorithms to negotiate with and YouTube algorithms, but I do not believe what I'm sent. I think that we are in a time of crisis, and I think that we are kidding ourselves, again, to say that these powers are our friends. They are not our friends.
Well, if you recognize in every in every thread in ChatGPT, in the very bottom, it mentioned there is in very super small statements. ChatGPT can make mistakes. Please always refer to your whatever blah blah blah. So make sure that whatever you got the information from the AI engines. Refer twice, triple times, four, whatever. So to make sure that you make a correct statement. Okay, we have 10 minutes left. Okay, ada lagi? Is there? Okay, in the back we have one more. Okay, the last one. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Norwidianto. I'm from Yogyakarta. So the question is addressed to Ibu Ativa from Malaysia. Okay, it is interesting when you repeatedly mention that the constitution of Malaysia is the source of rukun negara, harmony. So I don't want to challenge you actually, but I just ask you to perceive this from the different point of view. I have been living in Sabah, particularly in the hinterland of Sabah for my dissertation result. So I live with the Christian in two Christian villages, Kundasang and not Kundasang. Kundasang is Muslim villages. Keonulu and Bunduduhan, that almost 100% are Christian. So from the different point of view, they different from you. Yeah, they said that the constitution of Malaysia, 57, Islam is the religion of the federation. But other religion may be practicing peace and harmony in any other part of Malaysia. So from their point of view, this is the source of the inequality. So some of them, correct me if I'm wrong, yeah, but some of them convert to Christianity, not because they want to be Christianity, because they already have their indigenous religion, paganism, Mongolianism, yeah, but it is a symbol of resistance to Malay in Islam from Peninsula. And it's all privileges given to them. So I just need your correction maybe for my statement. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next. Oh ya, pesannya Pak Richard tadi suaranya agak keras biar kedengaran. Yang di Zoom kurang kedengaran.
Thank you. I am Ahmad Siddiq from UIN SUNAN AMPEL Surabaya. Just one simple question. Should we avoid talking about politics in terms of the process to build a peace? Because I saw that Dr. Iyad tend to avoid talking about politics. Should we do it in our process of building peace? Or, and I think it is, or we should start building peace among society, among religious society, by talking and making political actions. I believe that inside the religious conflict, there are many layers, including politics, economic, cultural, and other issues. And we have to start with these issues rather than start with only religious issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Thank you. If I can have two short questions to different people, just connecting on with my friend before about you used the word inequality. Yeah? Is that the criteria for? Is it for Malay Muslims or Muslims? So just get it clarifying. This is the like Malay Muslims and Muslims. Are there different legal systems or different guidelines for them to follow? And like Malay Muslims you can't preach to Malay Muslims, for example. Is there a difference there? Can you explain? And sorry, one more question, if it's okay, to Dr. Richard. I remember reading a book. Can you hear it okay? Hopefully. I remember reading a book by someone called Reuven Firestone, and you're probably familiar with the book of Holy War. He wrote two books, Holy War in Islam and Holy War in Judaism, just going through. And you mentioned about looking at the verses in the Torah and not running away from them, but being in the Quran, in the Torah, holy war in both. How do you approach, if you do that, how do you approach those verses? Like any input there? And I think I remember from the book I read was understanding from a cultural perspective, like with the Arabs, there were culturally warriors and the males had to go to war in that context. So so how do you approach without talking for an hour?
Thank you. Dr. Richard, can you respond that the last questions for us? Hello, Dr. Richard, can you respond to the last questions? No,
Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Yes, it's clear.
Can you hear me? Hello? 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 Can anybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, well, I'll say something and I'll hope that you can all hear it. So I think it's important for both communities to read their texts in looking at the context in which they were revealed or believed to be revealed. And both communities would argue that there were historical contexts which would limit the application of those scriptures. And very often what is done by those who want to take them in more radical ways is that they decontextualize them, dehistoricize them, and they take them out of any historical context. So that would be the first thing. Secondly, they need to look at the tafsir tradition, obviously in the Muslim case, but then in the Christian case, in the interpretative tradition as well, at how they have always been understood. And again, this is often the radicals do not take the time to look at the tradition and the history of the tradition in their interpretations. And thirdly, I think this is where we can help each other, because sometimes as we listen to the other person handling and interpreting their text, it actually shines a light on our own text and our own process of reading text, which is very much what the scriptural reasoning tradition is about. It's about understanding our hermeneutic, how we actually go about interpreting text. So I think that's where we can help each other and we hold a mirror up to each other. So in both traditions, these are not easy texts to handle, but in both traditions there are resources, and we can learn from each other's resources as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, the last questions is much more about the religion and the power relations in this context. Dr. Iyad and Dr. Atifa. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, when I say I was not talking about politics in my sharing. I mean, as a Palestinian, we are serious about mention political Trump or some names, because there is many spies around us. That's good. So I'm still talking, even here, I don't, maybe there is somebody watch me. It's like a conspiracy mindset, but no. For sure, Islam or religion is engaged with the political. And it's the purpose of the scriptures or the books of the prophets to fix and make the life is much better. And you can't separate the political from other aspects of life, economic or social effects. All of them are Islam specifically. Even some scholars said, "Oh, Christianity is not deal with political." That's not true. Any faith should interaction with political and using and change it and make it much better. So that's why I say I will not talk about political in this context. It's just to understand. But for sure, I use my papers always talk about how to reform our political system in Palestine or in Arab world. We have many problems as Muslims, Arab worlds. I have to talk something about the holy wars, because this is again, war is like political, and how the Quran deal with that. I just put input to this one. This is very important. Actually, we should to understand the Quran in that time, in the 7th century. What Arab at that time, they are in the chaos. They have, if somebody, tribes, they have a tribal system, tribe system. That means if a tribe attacking other tribes, the other tribe will killing many. So it's not one by one. No, if you kill one person from my tribe, I will kill thousands, like revenge. This is the system at that time. When Quran came, make it from chaos to equal, for one, as a temporary. This is the Quran borrow from the Torah, as I mentioned to you, eye for an eye. So before that, this is chaos. Then the Quran used the Torah for the level of justice, war of justice. But as a temporary, as a tool for the final purpose, which is love. Love your enemy. As I told you, if somebody attack me, he did a bad action, you should respond not good, the better. ادفع بالتي أحسن. So in my understanding, maqasid approach, I understand the Quran as the Dr. Richard mentioned, we have to understand in that time. And what is the goal of the scripture? The goal of the scripture, take the people from their level to, from the chaos to justice, then to love. Thank you.
Okay, I'm respond to the question about the inequalities. Basically, the inequalities may be seen in terms of economic, in terms of the what we call as the income of the society, or also maybe of the political chances for the Sabahan and also for the Sarawakian. But I don't think that in terms of religion there is inequalities, because in Sabah and Sarawak they have any other privileges, which is in the issue of name of Allah. The court give means the allowance given to the Sarawak. Sarawak can use the name of Allah. Other country in Malaysia cannot. So that is one of the privilege, because in Sarawak, there's the majority is Christian. So understanding of the situation of the state Sarawak, so the court give the what we call the exception for Sarawak to use the name of Allah. And answering your question, the article restrict the propagation of other religion to Muslim, not Malay. So whatever religion means that if you are Muslim, you cannot be propagated by other religion. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Please give applause to our speakers. Okay, well, the time limit us for the discussions. We may continue the discussion in the dinner time or in the break time, so please just keep in touch with the speakers and the audience. So yeah, thank you so much, and yeah, goodbye. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Richard.
Bapak Ibu, we have coffee break after this session. Oh yeah, we have a coffee break after this session plus dinner, so we can have a dinner in 5:30 AM. No, PM. Sorry, PM. 5:30 PM. Then we will come back to this room in 7 PM. At 7 PM, yeah. We have 2 hours, 2 hours break for this after this session. Thank you. Please come to the front. We have a photo session for all participants. Please come forward. Yeah.